Hello, thanks for joining us. Today we are going to talk about running a refractometer and understanding the Brix scores in our plants so that we can tell if they're doing photosynthesis at a high level or not. And if they're not, what we can do about it. So hope you join us. Today, this is kind of crunch time. We are talking about Brix scores and how to improve our nutrients in our plants, right? That's what it's all about. We want to get more nutrients into those plants so that we can get healthier. So that is our theme of the day. And it's kind of crunch time because it's not June anymore and it's the middle of July. So we're start running out of daylight time to make any changes or whatever. So that's why I wanted to come on today, even though we are super busy, and I'm sure you're super busy too. Plant health checkup. Do you?
I do.
Okay, and then we want to increase not only our production, but we want to increase our nutrients, right? Because that's what it's all about. Get the nutrients in the plant, get those plants where that we're consuming them, and we, as a human race, become healthier. So that is the goal. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do a Brix test. And in order to do that, we're going to use a refractometer. And we need to go back to our science classes. Hopefully you have this in school. In school, we have this as a core standard, K through 12. And I think it's through most college too, that we understand photosynthesis. So we just want to get a little basics today so that we have got it, because we need to make sure the stomas are open when we apply any nutrients to help the plant. So
wait, what are the stomas again?
The stomas right here. This is one cell on a plant leaf, and the stoma is the gate opening if the plant's receiving nutrients or anything else, or it's not. So there's a gatekeeper there, and when it's closed, your stuff's not going into the plant. When it's open, then it'll receive whatever our amendment was that we put on for foliar treatment. So what time of day does that happen? There's a closer picture of that stoma and what it looks like. So when it's closed, the plant's not doing photosynthesis and not receiving nutrients, and we need that to be open. So what's it affected by? It's affected by heat or cold and wind. Unfortunately in Montana, wind, right? So most days here in eastern Montana were windy. Today it's gorgeous, not a breath of wind out there. But they're also affected by storms. So if a storm is coming, the plant closes right down and it takes all those sugars and nutrients it's been making and puts them right down in its roots. And so we'll talk about that here in a minute. So the time of day, what time of day does that sound like would be ideal for us? Early in the morning. Some people like late evenings. I'm not an evening person, so I like super early in the morning, but either one works because the plant is going to be receiving those foliar treat at that time. So what are we going to use? Very inexpensive ones. I bought several of them to use them with the students at school, and I think they're under $25 a piece. And then we'll need a garlic press to be able to get some plant juices out of the plant leaves and into the refractometer. And then we want to measure. And I bought one of Jackie's journals. And so I've been journaling in there, and that's the best place to put these measurements, because then you don't lose the note or whatever you wrote it on. And I'll have it from you. So here's a quick look at the refractometer. There is expensive ones, but expensive one can be inexpensive.
That's the one we have too.
Yeah, nice.
I think it's $17 on Amazon.
Okay, so this tomato is an ultimate of health, and we'll talk about that more next week so that we can kind of understand more details. But today we just want to know, is this plant doing photosynthesis? How much is it doing? And if it's not doing enough, how we can help it.
So the tomato, you use the leaves and not the actual tomato itself? Oh, I didn't know that.
We want to know what the plant's doing today, right this minute. So we're going to use the leaf on all of them. And when you look on the internet for Brix scores, there's going to be ones for fruit and ones for the plant. And so we want to use the plant because We're going to make an adjustment now. If it's already
Oh.
fruiting, we're not going to make any adjustment to that fruit. It is what it is. When it's the foliage, we're going to make an adjustment to what it's doing from the next minute forward. This stuff happens within minutes. It's amazing. So we're going to take, did you know that? And not each one of these, the whole thing is one leaf. So I'll take off some of those leaves off that stem, and then I'm going to roll them up in my hand. And you need to roll them enough that I like to count to 20, because you want those juices really releasing their nutrients, not caught up in the cell walls. So you're going to really rub it, get it really want to release. Then we're going to stick it into then we're just going to press a tiny dab. And if your hands aren't looking like this, we're going to put a little drop on the lens of the refractometer, close the lid. Side of it, we're going to have a white, either a blue or a green. I've seen even black green at the top for colors. Here's an example. Right, so we're looking to read the lines, because that line may be really wide and it may be very, very hard to read. We want that. The fuzzier that line, the better our health of our plant. So we want it to be fuzzy and not a straight line that's just well defined. This is definitely a 12. We want to be thinking, oh, is this a 10, 11, 12, maybe it's a 13. That's all okay. I go with what I think is the middle number. I like to write down some notes as to what's going on with the weather, right? And if I'm going to compare this plant to itself and what I did to the plant to help the plant, I have to do it the same time of day, same weather conditions, to start getting a look at inside this plant to figure this out. Because if I took this refractometer score in the morning at 8 o'clock, and then I took another one at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're going to be different. If I took one at 8 o'clock in the morning and it had just rained the night before, it's going to be different than I took one at 8 o'clock in the morning and it had been not raining for 10 days and it's windy out. The readings are all going to be different. So that's why some people don't like the refractometer and the Brix scoring, because there is going to be variables. That's why you're going to write them in your notes. And you're just trying to figure out, is this plant doing really good or does it need help? That's all I want to try to figure out, right? So it's not like I'm trying to figure out something too scientific. So what do I do if my score is low? I'll index after this little presentation. We'll do that live. So if I deem I need to increase my score, what do I do, right? I'm going to apply our basic mix. And if you've been following us, you know the basic mix is worm castings and kelp. We're going to apply that every 5 to 7 days, right? That's what our routine has been. If that has not been your routine, like I've been talking to some gardeners asking me, have you been doing this? And they're like, oh, I did it. I says, how often? And they're like, well, once or twice. Once or twice is not helping your plant get to this level of nutrition that we want. We want to be in a routine. We're going to do it every week, right? So I tend to try to pick out one day of the week and do it on that day. You can do it more often. It's not going to hurt a thing, but we need to be at least that week, right, and score. But I want the highest nutrition possible. All right, so I'm going to apply not only my basic mix, but now I'm going to apply a bionutrient mix on top of that. And this is micronutrients, and I buy that because I'm not going to go ahead and make them. Now, and I'll talk about that we can make our own. But today, I don't have time to do that. I'm going to buy it. And I chose to buy bionutrients. They're the ones making about this after this presentation's over. There's a book that we can follow, nutrient reader, where that you can scan it, something at the grocery store and say, this is good, bad, or indifferent. And so they're the people that I want to follow. They've already got it figured out what's really helping these plants, what can get the most photosynthesis out of that plant and the most nutrition into the plant. And so they've already got all those micronutrients figured out in this mix. So I use it. And you only need to apply about 1 tablespoon to into the normal stuff. The one over here those are from the little grasshoppers. We're on the edge of the grasshopper storm that we're having here in Montana. And that's grasshopper damage from little tiny grasshoppers. And then that was week 1. And then I applied the nutrients that I just talked about onto the foliar. I just used a water can, drenched them on. Now you could use a sprayer, which would extend your nutrients further. And so I just drenched them on each individual plant. And then realized that I was going to get this scientific or show you guys this, or I would have used the exact same plant. But this is a plant close by to it. And you can see the new growth up in here is darker green, shiny, bright, happy, and no holes, right? That's what we want, because the insects can only digest incomplete proteins. And so if the plant is producing complete proteins, it can't digest it. If it ate it, it would die. Now, a grasshopper is an extreme situation because they can eat most anything. But most of our other garden pests, this is an easy peasy deal. We don't have to worry about it. We're done by being able to get the nutrients this high in this plant. And that happened in 1 week. Now, if I was really like panicking, think I want to get going here, right? I would apply 2 or 3 days. You can, they've done scientific ones where they've applied it every 30 seconds or something, or every minute. And it is just blinding, quite amazing. So here is the book I've been following with Nigel Palmer. We talked about it a couple shows ago, The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments. And he's making his own of these bionutrients through plants, mostly what we call weeds, but he's using it and making extracts. We're not going to go into that today because that's a whole nother show, but there's a page in his book at 184 that helps you know what nutrient you're lacking in your plant from what the fields are living in them. And I'm okay with that. Some examples, this is taken this morning. And the flea beetles, 100%. The flea beetles are in this. Of course, we're late getting planted in our area because of our extreme weird weathering we had in May and June. But this is what hers is looking like last week. Just fantastic. Look at that celery. Isn't that good looking stuff? This is what my neighbors looks like. Everybody wants to know what my neighbor looks like because her regenerative northern Montana. Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm glad that you was able to watch today, and hopefully you learned how to run the refractometer and understand a little more about your Brix scores and understand if your plant is doing high levels of photosynthesis and getting those nutrition into that plant so that we as humans can eat it. And when we do, we will create a healthier world. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.